Welcome to WAHNcast, the official podcast of the Women's Affordable Housing Network. This is our space to connect, get real, and talk about what's really happening in housing, from bold leadership to resident stories that ground us in purpose. We're here to amplify voices, strengthen each other, and share the kind of conversations you'd have with a friend who gets it. Because when our voices are amplified, our communities grow stronger, and so do we. In this episode of WAHNcast, host Ashley Northcutt sits down with Donna Bullock, President and CEO of Project Home and former Pennsylvania State House Representative, to explore how housing can heal and empower entire communities. From growing up with housing insecurity to now leading one of Philadelphia's most transformative nonprofits, Donna shares her journey of resilience, purpose, and partnership. Under her leadership, Project Home continues to thrive, backed by a powerful community that includes the Philadelphia Eagles and John Bon Jovi, both champions for housing and hope in the city they love. Donna talks about the importance of collaboration, meeting people where they are, and building a future where every Philadelphian has a place to call home.
Donna, I'm really excited to get to talk to you today. It's exciting to hear too and learn about your personal history with housing insecurity and how that so deeply aligns with Project Home's mission. How has growing up with housing instability influenced your approach to leading this awesome organization?
Thanks for that question. Growing up housing insecure, my family sought out a lot of support and resources. My mom was managing her own mental health challenges and really looking for that support to be the amazing mother that she was and continues to be for me. But one of the things that we were doing at the time was seeking support from various churches for food, meals. We were going from one church to another. So I can remember on Tuesdays going to the Lutheran church for a meal, and then on the third Wednesday going to the Episcopal church for sandwiches. Third Wednesday, there may not have been a meal. And then on Saturday, I got to go to the Baptist church, which I really liked because they had fried chicken and the sweetest punch you could ever find because the church ladies knew how to do that punch. It was in my hometown in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And my mom just navigated this network, this spider web of resources and meals and other opportunities to support our household. And at some point, these churches got together and said, we can do better, right? We can figure out how to work together to serve this community, find a central location for folks to find a meal, find social workers, resources, other support, and collaborate, coordinate our schedules at faith institutions, bring in our corporate partners in that city, which included Johnson and Bristol Myers Squibb and other big corporations and universities like Rutgers University, and really find a way to provide meals 7 days a week, along with a number of other resources. It was just a brilliant idea. It was simple, right? It made sense, but sometimes all these organizations sometimes can't get out of the way of each other and put their differences aside to say, hey, let's work together. And here you had these faith institutions saying, we could put aside all of our different missions and individual things to have this united mission to serve our community. And I watched that organization grow. It became its own separate nonprofit called Elijah's Promise, based in biblical scripture about Elijah making this promise to a widow that provided a meal to him to be able to support her, that God will look out for her and her first son if she helped them. And watching that and then eventually becoming a board member while I was in college and law school, saying, this is what I want to do, right? I want to help organizations serve. I want to respond to the need of the folks. And so when I look at my role now at Project Home and how I can lead here, I'm saying, how do we respond to the need of people? How do we find the solutions, just like this group of churches did in the 80s, to really meet people where they are by having a central location for a meal? Sounds simple, but it was such a big move, and it made such a big difference for my family and many others during that time. And I think I take that experience in my approach and leadership here at Project Home.
We have to do a shout out to your mom because the fact that she was able to find, like you said before, it was a cohesive effort, all these different places for resources for y'all. And we all know the life of a mom. She probably was also working. And then
she was making it happen, right?
Yeah.
What I loved about my mom is she loved the word free. If it was free, I was going. And
yes.
So meals, or it was an after school program, or it was some kind of extracurricular activity. I had such an enriched childhood because she said that every single thing that showed up in my book bag or in the mail, it's free. You're going to get there. I had opportunities to go to the theater, to participate in summer programs, to take up a foreign language, to do all kinds of things because the SREE was my mom's favorite word, but she's very resourceful. And I think that's what I took from that, her resourcefulness to make ends meet and to give me this really full and rich childhood that she could not afford, but she found a way to make it happen for me.
Yeah, like what a great gift. Like not only all the free things you got to attend, but watching that resourcefulness. And now I'm sure you use that in your job. Huge shout out, Mama. So, Donna, after nearly a decade in the PA house, you stepped down in July 2024 to assume the role of president and CEO of Project Home. What prompted that huge transition? And how has your background in a big public service role shaped your leadership strategy?
Yeah, it was a huge decision to make first, right? I was in public office, had been in that space for 10 years, had just got reelected. So there was no one asking me to speak, right? The voters were saying, hey, you're doing a great job. We want you back. But it was timing. And I think my ongoing commitment to service, and if I were to be a little corny here, maybe a calling, somewhat of a full circle moment for me. I have every career choice I've made was really by someone coming to me and saying, we think you'd be great at this. You should consider it. Not one in which I necessarily planned out. Sometimes the best plans can get changed and shifted anyway, but folks coming and saying, you've been of service, you're doing this great work, we think you fit this role, really think about it. And this timing of transition for Project Home came at a great time for me where I was looking at what is my next step. I had a history with Project Home in my other capacities. I had, whether it was my work as a lawyer or as a city employee, again, a state representative, that included a large part of the same coverage area as Project Home. And as a resident, I lived very close to some of Project Home's properties. I was familiar with the work. I was familiar with the leaders. I was familiar with the people who were involved in Project Home and the mission. It made sense to bring all of that experience with me to the organization, to be able to work across, also bringing this experience in what I've had working across the aisle, working across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, building coalitions. I think I bring that skill set of building these coalitions and bridges, knowing how to navigate systems. I'm not sure if that skill set came from the work. Maybe it came from my mama learning how.
I was just gonna say, I'm sensing a theme here. Like, not only say yes, show up, go try a new experience, but I think you're onto something.
All of these things here are part of those same experiences I had as a child. Let me tell you, the other piece of that experience in that soup kitchen and getting these meals, my mom and my grandmother were like, okay, yes, Donna, you had a great meal. Guess what you have to do now? You have to take your plate, clean up, and go help. Be a part of this operation. Sweep the floor, help wash the dishes, volunteer, and eventually join the board. So it's about building those same skill sets that I then took into my career, into my own professional life, and now bringing that same here, working with others, bringing those resources to bear for an organization that I believe is so meaningful and so important in today's conversation, particularly what I've learned is how to get things done and to use those resources and the systems and folks that I have connections to get it done. I hope to get everything done here at Project Home.
That's really awesome. And I just love the interwovenness of it all. Like how you talk about, I live near projects and I saw projects and I've always overlapped with Project Home. It's not surprising when they've developed over 1,038 permanent, affordable, and supportive housing units. And there's more in progress. Wow. How are you thinking about expanding these efforts across the Philadelphia neighborhoods to ensure not only access to housing, but also stronger community infrastructure?
Yeah, that's an important question. It really is at the heart of what we do at Project Home. All right. I think again about the community that I live in. It's the 19121 zip code in North Philadelphia. Years ago, about 35 years ago, Sister Mary and Joan, who are the co-founders of Project Home, went into that community and said, hey, we want to build some recovery housing here. We have a property. And the neighbor said, that's great. And we actually are not against it. There wasn't an envy. The neighbors were like, yes, we need recovery housing in our neighborhood, but we also need some other things, right? We need you to come in here and not just bring this recovery housing. We need healthcare for our community. We need after school programs for our children. We also want you, leaders of this organization, to be a part of this community, to move into the community that you're coming and bring this recovery housing into. And so Sister Mary did that. She moved into the neighborhood. Her and Joan then went to work and started building out and investing in that neighborhood, whether it was a small after school program and a small one-room clinic that has grown over those years into a full federally qualified health center, a full educational technology center with all kinds of adult and K through 12 and daycare educational programming. We're currently providing and working with a partner to provide some mental health services in the community center and resources. That infrastructure that the community demanded 35 years ago really developed into the neighborhood's federally qualified health center, all of these other things. And when I look at some of the other housing that Project Home has done in that immediate neighborhood, to this day, I can drive down and see other market rate housing being built right next to it 30 years later. And for not Project Home holding down and stabilizing those blocks, building some home ownership opportunities, creating the other supportive housing, permanent supportive housing structures and residences that we have there, and all of the other things there, I don't know if today we would see that market rate housing building alongside. I don't know if 20 years ago I would have moved to that same neighborhood, but Project Home had been there 15 years prior to me moving to that neighborhood. I don't know if the civic association that I'm a part of would have been able to survive if not Project Home gave them office space, right? So all of the things that Project Home did in that neighborhood really did stabilize it and prepare it for a moment where it can receive additional investment in the private market, but it not displace the folks that are already there. And that is, I think, long-term investment that built that infrastructure. And that's something we look to see throughout the city. We know, we've done reports, we know that the millions of dollars that we raise really do drive economic impact across the city. We have a report that says, $202 million in economic impact and more than $2 million in tax impact across the city of Philadelphia. So we know that we have that our investment has that kind of return, particularly in the community infrastructure.
That's amazing. And it's so awesome that they were having that open conversation years ago and people that were there asking these questions were listening and doing what the community needed to thrive. And you just wish they were all still here to celebrate what's going on because from what I understand, 100% of high school students in Project Home education programs graduated last year, 100%. And the Stephen Klein Wellness Center facilitated over 26,000 healthcare visits in 1 year. Is that correct? Or total? Yeah. What's the key to maintaining this level of success? And how does the connection between housing, healthcare, and education influence long-term stability for these residents? Like you just talked about, even going there now, people are building market rate right there in the same community. So this is a successful endeavor.
Yeah, it is. It's our whole model, right? We are looking at housing, opportunity that for employment, particularly, and medical care and for education. It's all part of it. And we're doing it for the residents and participants that come into Project Home's community, but also those who surround it, right? Everybody gets to go to the Stephen Klein Wellness Center. Everybody gets to go and take part of the educational programs that we have at the Learning Center, including the residents that are part of our Project Home permanent supportive. We know that the age is critical. It is the vital part. It's where we start in many ways, but it's not just a me. You can't just give somebody a roof over their head and four walls and say, good luck. It doesn't work that way. People need a lot more support in their life. People need to have something they're passionate about. When I was elected, I used to say, no matter where I went in that community, no matter where economic, social status people may be, folks wanted the same thing. They wanted to know that they can have a nice place to lay their head at night. And they know they have somewhere to lay their head at night. And it could be in the $1 million condo, it can be in the $100,000 row home in Philadelphia. Folks wanted to know that their children were going to be able to go to a good school, that they'll have a quality education, no matter the zip code that they live in. People also wanted to know that they can live out their life with dignity and grace, and have access to health care, medical care that they need. That's the hope model, right? It's all those things are exactly what I was saying when I was elected. So again, when I think about the transition, it's not a surprise for me that I came to a place that believed in the same messaging that I was saying as an elected official, going from one part of my district to another part, that this is what we also uphold here at Project Home. All of those things are necessary to really build a community and to have long-term stability for our residents. I think about a resident all the time. They tell me, "God, I'm so happy to have you." But when I go into that room, I'm alone. And so it's not just about having the king. I love this community as well. I get to come out and we have resident barbecue. I get to go and I've taken a podcast lesson at our technology lab. Right? So you can come and check us out, Ashley.
I will. We need help.
It may be, right? He was able to say it wasn't just about getting the king. It was all these other things. And that when I need a little bit more support, when I know that I'm a little bit stressed out and I need some help, that there's staff on site to help me with that as well.
This just isn't, I want to come visit, first of all. But also, you say it so well. Like, I love just listening to you. I got chills, and I'm sure any listener did too, when you're saying it's so true. Everyone wants the same exact thing. Everyone wants a home, safe, comfortable, clean, great education for family, all those things. So I'm just so glad that you ran on this campaign and now you're even back bringing it to life and growing this mission of home. In just 9 years, Project Home has increased its housing development by 163%, adding 936 units and leveraging a $30 million gift. How do you plan to continue that kind of growth, and what strategies are being used to build in places that promote this same dignity, community, and long-term impact?
When I hear those numbers, it's a little intimidating. The co-founders of Project Home, my predecessors, they were amazing. They were out there every day advocating for resources for this organization, and were just very powerful and strong-willed fundraisers. They had goals, they set them, and they went for them. It had this rapid period of growth, right? But all of that is possible, not just because of amazing co-founders, but because of this community of residents, employees, the volunteers, and philanthropists that commit and are committed and dedicated to the work that we do here. What I know is that our residents, our employees, they drive the mission, they drive the work, they inform it, right? But it doesn't happen without that dedicated community of donors and volunteers that supercharge the engines that we're driving here. And because of that, we're able to do a lot more and leverage public dollars, leverage other foundation grants and other resources and contracts. I hope to be able to continue the work there, maybe use some of the skills and relationships I have with government partners, but also continue to build this group of philanthropists that are still committed to the work. We call them Empower. It's just a new, unique group of community members who have invested in this work and have allowed us to leverage or fill in gaps where government dollars don't meet the need. And so it allowed us to continue to do things differently sometimes, to test things out, to be innovative. A lot of that is because of our community of partners that are well beyond government contracts.
It sounds like the way you talk about the founders too, they're very lucky to have found you to come in and step into this role after the great work they started. And you talk about that they were basically firing on all fronts all the time, from fundraising to community impact. So I'm glad that you're the one that took this role so you can continue this work forward. An economic impact study found that Project Home capital development has generated $329 million in local economic output and supported over 1,800 jobs. What does this tell you about the power of housing development as a driver of economic vitality and opportunity in historically disinvested areas?
Yeah, I think we touched on this just a few questions about that neighborhood at 19121 zip code in North Philadelphia. And that was over 35 years old. community-led impact in that neighborhood that we've seen, again, the little one-room clinic turn into a full federally qualified health center because of the need of the community. Our Honickman Learning Center, the dozens of home ownership units that we were able to build with the support of John Jovi, who's one of our donors. And the number of housing that we've also built in that neighborhood. But when I go back and drive through that neighborhood, other things that I see are growing commercial corridor where our local housing authority decided to move their headquarters just a few years ago to that same neighborhood just behind our health center, and their 500 employees. We were there first, right? I like to say that. We were there.
Right.
But I think we created a setting for other organizations and institutions to say, you know what, we can move here. Now, just to set the stage, this was a neighborhood that had seen a lot of disinvestment, particularly after the 60s and 70s or some. There were some riots there in response to civil unrest, and a lot of the businesses left. And so you had vacant storefronts, and you saw from there, if you don't have the storefronts, if you don't have the sort of assets that every community needs, right? Whether it's a grocery store, a bank, or a dry cleaners, those institutions leave, those businesses leave. It's hard for residents to stay in those neighborhoods because that's not a full, complete neighborhood. So then you start losing the resident. And 20, 30 years ago, Project Home is saying, we're going to come here, we're going to make our imprint here. And now we are seeing, again, other institutions coming, student housing coming, and other organizations and businesses relocating and coming back to the neighborhood and bringing life back into that neighborhood. So it's definitely a driver of economic and community development in those particular neighborhoods to have that kind of housing. I see it also wherever we go, wherever Project Home decides to build, you can see around it some other opportunities for growth or stability. We have our headquarters is located in one of the most wealthiest neighborhoods of Philadelphia. But at the time, when we came here, I was struggling a little bit. It was on that brink of continuing the path one way or another. And at first, the neighborhood didn't want us here because they thought that this was a different approach, right, than the code I talked about. But this neighborhood said, oh, we're not sure we want you to have a homeless shelter on this very to-do commercial block in a very nice residential neighborhood that can go one way or the other. And if you bring a shelter here, that's going to be a problem. And we fought that position with the city and went to court and actually settled a case that became a landmark case for you couldn't discriminate against this type of housing, having shelter in your neighborhood. And it's a landmark housing case. And we're very proud to have taken that fight all the way to court. And now in that neighborhood, they welcome us. And we were able to build 10 years later in the next block. And they see our residents in the coffee shop, and they see our residents walking in the neighborhood. We are a part of the community. And I would say even the neighbors nearby now are advocates for the work that we do. We're going to another neighborhood who may have some questions or some hesitancy. It is the residents in this particular neighborhood that it's a neighborhood of choice, I would say, who end up being our best advocates and saying, no, they are great neighbors. We're happy to have them, and we volunteer. And so it's been a great partnership to see that and to see that we were able to overcome NIMBYism over time.
And have surrounding neighborhoods also fighting for you in other areas that are claiming NIMBY. So what is the name of this community called? The one that is thriving for 35 years now?
Zip code North Philadelphia, Strawberry Mansion area.
Okay.
And the one that has just really been, that's where I live. I live in Strawberry Mansion, and just really, so if you look at that neighborhood, it's a neighborhood that has lower income, working class community, but really said, come, right? And it was just a really great experience to see that over the last 25, 30 years, the big that I neighborhood because of the understanding of the needs of even their residents. Yet recovery makes sense for us. Well, housing makes sense for us, and all these other things. So
it sounds like such a model for other people to visit and see, and to have neighboring communities stand up for this community. I love hearing this. So you mentioned Bon Jovi. Are the Eagles supporters? Are they part of your Empower supporters?
Well, they're not the Empower, but we've had a great Eagles week with them.
Okay.
Week, so we know those Super Bowl champions are right here in Philadelphia. Opening game this year was in Philadelphia against the rival Cowboys, and we beat them. Just don't say that. And we were
That's right.
partnered with the Eagles the day before to have our community kickoff in that neighborhood that I talked about.
Okay.
Center in front of our educational technology labs. And they were there in that block. We had this amazing community block kickoff with the Eagles and Little Caesars Love Kitchen. And we gave out free pizza and we had all the Eagles cheerleaders, everything. It was a great kickoff block party. We were glad to have them as partners, and then they welcomed us to be one of their game charities the following day at the kickoff. So they're great partners. They're a great team. And I think more than anything, we're the champions along with them, right? They're the champions on the football field, and we're the champions out here doing the work to bring everybody home.
I love to hear that. I don't always get to listen to their podcast, but I have heard both the Kelsey brothers and Kylie Kelsey manifesting things. So I was just going to say we should manifest them as partners in this if they're not quite there yet. Yes. So we want those Eagles. Yes, absolutely. And also, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I assume everyone I know from Philly is a big Eagles fan. Are you an Eagles fan?
Go Bird.
Okay, yes. So I have a lot of family living in Philly, but I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I married a guy that went to UGA. So you guys have half the UGA football team as they graduate college. And Jordan Davis grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I don't know if you saw the play this week, but the man is like 355 pounds and ran 18 miles an hour after he grabbed the football from blocking it from a kick. So go Eagles.
All day. We are very proud of our Eagles, but they're also doing great work on and off. Would love to have a stronger relationship with them as we continue to show them like how great Philadelphia is as a community, city, and our commitment to not just football, but to our people.
All right, so that's a shout out to Not Gonna Lie from Kylie Kelsey. Very cool. So now we're back to our work. The Hub of Hope. This serves thousands of people annually, offering meals, showers, laundry, and direct pathways to housing and care. How does this kind of low barrier engagement center fit into Project Home's broader strategy of addressing homelessness from multiple angles?
The Hub of Hope is an example of how we meet people where they are. It is ground zero example of our work, I think, of the people who work for Project Home and the kind of compassion we have. I see it every day in our employees. They really are committed to this work, committed to the folks that we serve. Sometimes I hear our employees refer to we, and then they're talking about we as they're identifying along with our clients and participants.
Amazing.
I think it just goes to who we are as an organization. Yes, the Hub of Hope is just the model of meeting folks where they are. It's been replicated by other places like New Jersey and even New York City recently. I think where other cities have done everything in their power to keep individuals that are experiencing homelessness out of their transit centers. To think of all of the ways that cities may do that with infrastructure and other ways to keep folks out of transit centers, off of buses, off of these urban spaces and community spaces and public spaces. The Hub of Hope is an example where Project Home has created a space for them. It is transit oriented. It is in our concourse level of our subway system in Philadelphia. It is a place in the center of the city where folks can come, enjoy a warm cup of coffee, take a shower, wash laundry, all the things that you talked about. They can also see a healthcare provider. We have a small clinic and our doctors and nurses come there to meet folks. They can speak to their peers, connect with case managers, maybe find housing or a shelter bed that evening. It is really a transit engagement center, transit-oriented engagement center. Another way to use transit-oriented development, right? To do it in the kind of way where we meet people, again, right where they are. It is powerful to see it at work. It is a connector place. It's a place to connect folks. And I think a model of different ways to meet people and engage them. Sometimes I say, maybe they don't want to be engaged today. I get it, right?
Yeah. We all have those days.
And so they're like, look, today is not the day. I just want to drink this coffee and get out this rain and sit for a while. You know what? Everybody deserves to have that moment where they can sit with themselves and be away from the busyness, particularly of a big city like Philadelphia, to find that moment of peace before they have to be engaged and talk about case work and connecting with resources. I think that's a purpose too, a valid purpose to have. Yeah.
It
That's
sounds
another.
like, yeah, it's such a slice of heaven. There was a place in Charlotte called the Charlotte Rescue Mission that shut down. It sounds very similar, but I always used to think we did a lot of volunteer work there. And to finally have a place to sit and someone not chasing you, to go and get a shower on a day that you don't always have a shower available, like just changing that whole week for you to have what everybody else has. So that's amazing. And it sounds like it's pretty centrally located, hub of hope, and it's in a
Right?
transit in Philly.
It's, if you can imagine it, it's literally right underneath our city hall because you're going under into the transit system and underneath City Hall. So
Yeah.
very much center located and can get to all of these different subway systems in the city. But yeah, it's amazing, pretty magical place.
Yeah, that's great. So, Donna, national studies show that supportive housing reduces emergency room visits, hospital stays, and incarceration while improving long term outcomes. How has Project Home implemented evidence based practices like housing first, one of my favorites, and how do you adapt them to the unique needs of the Philadelphia communities?
Yeah, I think about this question a little bit. I I think about a conversation I have with my senior vice president of supportive housing, and she always says, we do housing first, capital H, capital F, but we also do housing first, little h, little f. I'm like, what's the difference? What do you mean? And it's really philosophy, right? So it's housing first is this approach. We all know it, very familiar with it, that's the capital H, capital F housing first. Funding that's attached to it. We understand it, right? It's hard to tell somebody we want you to do this or get clean or get healthy or whatever. If you don't know where you're going to be putting your head that night, it's hard to think about any of those things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for me. I used to do some work around like school lunches. How's a kid going to think about 1+1 if they're having? So we got to take care of those basic needs first. So making sure that someone has a place to rest their head, that they have food in their stomach, and then we can talk about all these other things. Able to be more successful when that is happening. When my senior VP of supportive housing says, but we also do little h, little f, housing first. What she's really saying is that this is our philosophy, regardless of some grant that's out there, some policy that's out there. This is a philosophy that we believe it in our souls that someone needs to be housed first before we can do any of those things, regardless of what funding streams may be in place, regardless of any of those other things. We understand that critical basic need of meeting someone's basic needs before you can talk about any of those other pain points of connecting them to resources or anything. It's not going to happen. I'm not trying to have that conversation. We see it, for example, just even at the Hub of Hope. If someone's calling in and we're trying to connect them to some resource, no, I need to get dry. I want to have a cup of coffee. I need to get myself together first. Then I can talk to you. Absolutely. So we are always looking at ways to use I would say the model of the day, but no matter what we call it, no matter what approach may be out there, for Project Home, we are always going to say, how can we get someone stable first, stabilize them, help them get the job, help them get the GED, help them stay healthy, meet those basic needs first, and then come up with a plan for helping them be sustainable life afterward.
Yeah. It makes so much when you say it too. You say it so simply. It's so true. It's any of us can imagine a bad day versus a good day, right? And like some days you just need that time to settle before anything starts coming at you when you walk in the workday, for instance. So I love how you're doing this and how you're giving everybody the space and time to get comfortable. And then we want to help. Like, how can we help after that? What are some of the most exciting developments on the horizon for you all? Whether new housing, community centers, you guys are doing it all, innovative service models this investment is making possible.
Yeah. So innovation had always been at the forefront of Project Home. I talked about our founders. They were like always thinking of new ways that we can serve folks, that we can meet the need and evolve to meet those needs. So thinking about that evolution of the work that we do right now, Project Home is really looking at how do we address the growing opioid crisis here in Philadelphia for those who are experiencing homelessness. The next era for us is probably an initiative that we're calling the East End Collaborative for now. It's funded by our and East End and out of the door to really look at a new approach to addressing the opioid crisis for individuals who are experiencing homelessness and also have complex medical needs. So what we're seeing is that folks are dealing with this triad of issues. It's the housing, it's the behavioral health, it's the medical need, it's the overuse and multiple uses of the crisis systems that are in place in the hospitals, the prison system, the shelter system. And so we're looking at is working particularly with our local hospital institutions here, University of Penn, Jefferson, and Temple. And the initiative was launched 2 years ago. We're just looking at how do we connect those hospitals to housing. And again, in the same way, if that individual shows up in the hospital, either through the emergency room or through the clinics or through some other pathway, and they have some other complex medical needs, so maybe they're on dialysis. How do you continue dialysis if you don't have a place to live? So we're talking about housing first, right? How do you then send that person home? You adjust whatever immediate need it was in the hospital. You're sending them home to the street, and they're not going to get well, right? They're not going to be able to address their opioid use. They're not going to be able to address their medical concerns at the time if you're unhoused. And so we're looking at providing this kind of housing where we're partnering with the hospital and we're able to refer directly into housing units or beds and then continuing to treat those patients as their primary care provider, continue to connect them to outpatient, both for their opioid use, but also outpatient medical care that they need as well. And our supportive staff are able to continue to work with those residents to make sure that they're going to their appointment 3 times a week or whatever it may be. If they're getting the kind of wound care that they may need, if that is also a concern. So we're looking at that. How can we expand this work, fund it, but it's not necessarily funded, and look at other ways that we can support the needs of the unhoused population today, and in this particular neighborhood in Philadelphia that opponents Kensington, and continue that work. So again, being innovative and being responsible and being people where they know.
I hope all the cities start doing this. It feels like good support for this population. As Project Home's 2023 to 2025 strategic plans enters its final year, woohoo! What success metrics are you focused on? Whether leased up speed, resident stability, or long-term housing retention, what's next for your organization as you look ahead to the next phase of growth?
I love the woo-woo, first off, because who doesn't love a strategic plan?
Right? Anyone that's done strategic planning will understand.
And of course, you end the strategic plan by starting your next strategic plan.
Right.
The first thing that we're doing right now is engaging and embarking on our next strategic plan. But as we close out the existing one, we want to look at those metrics and how successful we are when it came to resident stability, addressing vacancies in our unit, healthcare measures, all of those things that we've been talking about in the last couple of minutes for sure. I think we are definitely proud of meeting a long-term goal, and if not meeting it, exceeding it. The number you mentioned just a few questions prior, that we've exceeded the number of units we wanted to build. We had the goal forever of building 1,000 units. We're now at 1,038 with more in the pipeline. So now we need to set a new goal. We are going to be definitely looking at how we can look at our impact. Right. So it's great to have these numbers. Hey, this many people stayed in their housing for 12 months or longer. This many people connected with healthcare or connected with a job or are able to maintain a minimum wage job or more. But what does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
So really diving into those statistics and those numbers and finding some other way to communicate the impact of those metrics. That's something I look forward to working on with our team and how we can really dig a little deeper into the nice statistic that you see on the annual report and dig a little what that really means for the folks that we're serving, for the communities that we live in, and for the city of Philadelphia that our operations are headquartered in. Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at for the next organization as we look ahead. And what's the next set of metrics? One of the things I'm really proud of, if I can backtrack, is the metrics around our employees, to be honest.
Let's hear. Yeah.
We wanted to make sure folks felt like they belonged. They felt like they were included. And going forward, I want to make sure we are looking at turnover rate. This is hard work, and burnout is real. And so I want to look at turnover rate. I want to look at employee wellness. I want to see how folks are using the resources we have available as an organization for them. So that's some of the work that I'd like to dig in a little more as a leader of the organization and make sure that I'm taking care of the people who are contributing.
They're so lucky to have you, Donna. Like, how cool you're thinking of all these big picture things, and it comes back to that, because the value of retention, of someone staying there and of hearing all the voices to get the right answer. And so it's just really neat on top of all this work that you're bringing back to that to make sure your employees are as well and performing as they can and feeling heard. That's amazing.
Yeah, but retention of those employees and the impact on the folks.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Relationship with those employees, and then now there's what?
Yeah.
Relationships with somebody else. I don't trust people and I get it. So investing in the employees is just as important as focusing on, if we want folks to be successful as residents, we need to make sure that our employees are successful.
Sure. And the way you're building that, I mean, you said it before, your teammates are saying like we, meaning us and the communities we work with, which is really a testament. That's very cool. I can't wait to hear. I want to follow up next year and get these metrics that you're digging into and hear all the other good news. Our chapters are currently working on strategic planning classes with a nonprofit trainer named Hedges. You have any advice for these poor people going through strategic planning? Most of us are in the startup phase.
Right?
We're almost there, right?
So listen, take this. Think of your strategic planning as a spa day for your organization. What do I mean by that? Right? You just a spa day or whatever it is, your time that you invest in yourself. Whether it's I go to the spa, I get my nails done, I go to the gym, I sleep in, I read a book. That time that you're investing in yourself and hopefully are turning off all electronics or cutting off all the noise and then taking it time to invest in you. Okay, guess what? Your organization needs that same kind of time. So when you do the strategic plan, turn out all the noise. Tune it out, turn it off, focus in. And this is hard. I know it's hard because we can never find time as a leader to just set aside to do this, because there's always something to do. There's always an email to check. There's always a meeting to be had. There's always a crisis going on in the hallway outside your office. But you have to. It's so important to find that time to give your organization both by day. And then you have to do something with it. Yeah, so many strategic plans live on the shelf. We can't let it live on the shelf. I think about when I do get my nails done at my spa day, I like to show it off. So, we got to go to dinner. We got to do stuff because these nails can't go to waste. So the same thing with that strategic plan. We can't let it go to waste. Have to put it to work. So give that spa day and then put it to work. That's my advice. That's it.
Girl, I have never heard ever in the history of ever the strategic plan compared to a spa day. And everybody listening, that just we should do that. It's so true though. It's so true. And it like revives your whole organization to come back to what you're focused on. So I love that analogy. Thank you so much for sharing. I will definitely be stealing that, but I'll give you credit and tell everyone that Donna Bullock taught us this. With that advice, you probably know for Women's Affordable Housing Network, we serve the affordable housing industry and helping leaders get to the position of their desired stage. What is one piece of advice that you would leave our listeners with?
So many pieces of advice back.
Go, you have the whole floor.
Listen, I'll probably say two things. One, I learned about families from that community at Largest Brown Sea Kitchen for me. And I believe in like finding your people, your chosen people, and really investing in that family and leaning in on them and letting them support you. So find your family. I believe the folks that I broke bread with are family, because that's who I sat with. I had a meal with every day. And I had aunts and uncles with folks around it who were folks who were unhoused, who would stand up for me when they saw me having a little street fight when I was growing up. But those are my people. So find your people, because they were all of that. Those are your people. Two, as a woman, just never, ever let anybody make you feel small. So I am all of 5 feet. I think I'm shrinking, but I might be 4'11" change right now. But I always believe that you just have to stand tall and don't let anybody make you shrink yourself, feel smaller than you are, fill up all the space all the time, fill up all the noise all the time. Make sure that you're heard. Yeah, those are two things. Find your family and don't shrink yourself.
I love these. We could listen to, maybe we can call you every day and get one more piece of advice, Donna.
It was spa day.
And spa, yeah, we'll do it at the spa if we need to and just gather up all the advice. Donna, Pennsylvania's better for having you do all the service you do for them. It's so amazing that you're one of the people that has chosen to marry your mission to work. I think in the housing industry, we're so lucky to have you. I know you are doing a million things right now. Look at what you're doing. I'm just sitting here. I still have chills. I'm like still replaying. I'm like, I want to soak up everything you told me, but you chose to spend an hour of your time with us, and we cannot thank you more. It feels so good to hear your stories, and thank you for all you do for housing and all the people that matter most.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely an honor. As you can tell, I just love to be able to break bread virtually or however with folks and share. So this was just a really good time for me as well. And thank you. I look forward to learning more about all of the partners and hearing from all of the women that are doing this great work. And I'm honored to be a part of the community now. Just honored to be a part of this group of women leading and identifying this need of affordable housing as something that we're committed to, and they were going to direct our professional careers and passion towards. The world's a better place because of all of us.
That is true. Amen. Donna, thank you so much and welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us on WAHNcast, the official podcast of the Women's Affordable Housing Network. Every guest, every story, every listen helps us keep this space real, rooted, and resonant, and we're so glad you're a part of it. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their time and knowledge with us, to our sponsors for making this platform possible, and to you for tuning in, sharing, and helping us keep this conversation going. Be sure to follow, rate, and share WAHNcast wherever you listen, and bring a friend next time we save them a seat.